a lot of topics. Silviu, we would love to hear about you. What do you think it's an effective system? What has been your experience, and what is the role of public access in this sense? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ivana. Thank you for having me to this wonderful event. So I'll jump right to the point, and let me bring to the table two theories. Two highly tested theories during my 12 years with the Romanian oversight body for assets declarations. So here's the first one. Public access to declarations means human resources for free for the anti-corruption bodies. And the second one, having assets declarations open to the public, the people can hold officials accountable. And let me give you some context. So 14.5 million page views have been registered on the portal of assets declarations submitted by Romanian public officials since we launched it in 2010. No doubt that there is a strong interest on the declarations submitted by public officials. So we may wonder, what are all these people doing with these declarations? Well, a couple of years ago, a central newspaper was tipped about some large villas belonging to a hospital manager. Journalists immediately confronted the evidence with the assets declarations and found out that this guy forgot to disclose the info with the public. In 2020, a Romanian NGO specialized in monitoring political funding analyzed the sample of declarations submitted by candidates to local elections and found out that some of them might find it very difficult to justify their financial contributions to their political parties given their own income situations. It was also the case of a Romanian authority specialized in internal revenue management, which decided to launch an internal integrity inspection by cross-checking information from the company's registry with declarations of assets and interests submitted by their employees. And last but not least, one person in Bucharest is the best friend of the National Integrity Agency, personally sending us more than 50 notifications only this year, notifications regarding irregularities in assets declarations. So what are all these things have in common? What is the binding element of these actions? Well, the public access to declaration. You know, all these media, journalists, civil society, or regular citizens entered into this sort of frenzy, this sort of hype of scrutinizing the assets declaration with a high interest even today. So all these years, we had a system for disclosing that was in part digitalized, that didn't allow us to look on large volumes of declarations in order to detect the problematic ones. So this lack of capacity was highly compensated by the right of people to public access to declarations. You know, there is no media or independent central oversight bodies in rural areas or small communities, but there are always citizens interested in the well-being of the community. So in this context, I have to say to you that Romanian Integrity Agency launched 6,000 investigation files following notifications received from external sources. Some other thousands were launched as ex officio after media claims. Because in the end, all these red flags comes to our attention. This way, for example, we were able to identify a 250,000 euros unjustified in a case of a Bucharest municipality member, or a 2 million euros contract that was signed in a conflict of interest state by a local mayor. The source for these investigations were regular citizens. Moreover, a case file opened by ANI following media claims led to identification of some deposits opened in a foreign jurisdiction. So we can see how one simple notification from the public led to confiscation and recovery of millions of euros, how public officials were fired and denied to occupy any other positions due to conflict of interest, and the list can go on. So how can we determine if a financial disclosure system is effective? We can look upon two basic issues: assessment of legal framework, are all the necessary laws in place, and the practical enforcement, track record of cases, institutional performance, relevant tools or mechanisms. But there is also a third way, to observe the long-term and more complex impact, to see whether the rate of non-compliance with disclosure dropped, to see systems where public officials seeks to avoid misconduct by requesting opinions from the oversight body before taking the office, and where the media uncovers integrity wrongdoings on a constant basis. So in a nutshell, when you have an ecosystem where all parts involved, civil servants, journalists, politicians, where all these parts understand and use their rights and obligations in the area of integrity, they can always act as a catalyst for reforming the system. However, the transparency of declarations is not always about rainbows and butterflies, and I'll tell you later what happens when the people are deprived of this right.
Thank you very much, Silviu. I definitely look forward to hearing more about that.